This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we are now working on cybersecurity. So first of all, coming to my name and my experience. So I'm Srinivas. I'm working from last 13 plus years on multiple kind of technologies like mobile apps, web development, and cybersecurity, data science, artificial intelligence. And now coming to that point, cybersecurity. What is the meaning of cybersecurity? And in this module, cybersecurity is not a course basically. Cybersecurity is an environment where you are going to be providing security for your applications or security for your softwares, a lot of things. Okay, so how we are managing the passwords, how we are managing the usernames, and how we are giving sign-ins and authentications, authorizations, all these things. So there are multiple kind of cybersecurity modules like ethical hacking, network hacking. Okay, so web application hacking, mobile application hacking, and domain hacking and operating system hacking. At the same time, now we are working a module called IAM. IAM. What is this meaning of IAM is identity identity access management. Identity access management. This is our current topic. So, what is this identity access management? Generally, identity access management is first of all we should understand three definitions. The one is identity, and another one is access, another one is management. See, what is the meaning of identity? What is the meaning of access? What is the meaning of management? See, very simple, common English words. Identity is something like recognize a person, recognize a person. Recognize a person is called identity. For example, who are you? Who are you? Nothing but identity. See, like your Aadhaar ID. So based on Aadhaar ID, we can able to identify the person, or based on passport, we can able to identify the person, and based on voter card, we can able to identify the person. See, every person who is going to be having unique ID like username. So what is the username and password for that particular application which is going to be logging with? For example, I'm signing with Gmail, I'm signing with Facebook, I'm signing with Amazon, I'm signing with IRCTC, I'm signing with different kind of banking applications. Whatever it may be, identity is very very important. Okay, so for example, if you want to access the data, if you want to access the data from IRCTC, or if you want to access the data from SBI banking application, if you want to access the data, first of all, you should be having some username and password. If you don't have the username and password in mobile application or web application, you could not able to access your details from the bank. From the bank. Okay, application working on internet and data is available. A lot of data available for SBI. A lot of customers, a lot of users available for SBI, and you have some identity. You have some identity to enter into the SBI mobile application or web application. Am I right or wrong? Am I right or wrong? So
Yes, Renu.
everybody should have some identity. Without identity,
Yes.
you could not able to open the doors of SBI. Okay, if you want to open your application with your username and your password, you are giving your username and you are giving your password, then you're trying to entering some captcha or getting OTP, whatever it may be, or different kind of authentication systems, multi-factor authentication systems are there. With that, we are identified the person. Okay, we have some application and we need a lot of users. Okay, for users, we are providing some identity and they are registering with their email ID, they are registering with their passwords, all these things. That is called identity. And coming to the access, access is very simple. Accessing something like allow, allow content, allow content for users. Allow content for users is something like access. Okay, so we are managing one application, for example. Okay, so we are managing some application, and the data we are giving access to the users. The data we are accessing to the users by we are giving access to the users by authenticating him, by authorized him. When we give authentication and authorization to that particular user, then only he can able to access the data. And we are allowing permissions, or we are giving permissions to access the data. We are giving permissions to do some different kind of operations from that particular data store. Whatever the database we have, the database, it is going to be having a very big one. The database is very big one for SPI, but your details, your account details, your transactions, you can able to access, but you can't able to access my transactions, and you can't able to access some X person transactions, and you can't able to access some Y person transaction. Even you can't able to access your wife's transactions also, or your sister's transactions also. Why? Because of everybody having some unique identity, and everybody have some separate access system. They have their own identity, they have their own usernames and passwords. By that usernames and passwords, they can able to access the data. Access nothing but allow content for users by recognition. So by recognition, that recognition should be something like username and password, or different kind of captchas, different kind of OTPs with the mobile numbers. Okay, so finally, management. What is the management is? So management is a lot of operations, something like a different kind of operations. Okay, what are the different kind of operations we can able to perform on top of SBI? See, we can able to log in with SBI. For example, I'm taking application called SBI. Log in with SBI, and you can able to transfer money from SBI. You can able to transfer money from SBI, and you can able to delete transaction. If you want, you can delete the transaction. You can able to delete the transaction, or if you want, you can download the statement. Download statement. If you want, you can change your password. See, if you want, you can change password, and if you want, you can able to change your username. Change your username, and if you want, you can stop your. If you want, you can stop your account. Okay, and pass your account. Stop your account, pass your account. All these things you can able to perform from your application. So these things are actually called. These things are actually called management. Okay, so we have the concepts like identity, we have the concepts like access, and we have a concept like management. Completely IAM is something like identity access management, and identity access management, which is the part of cybersecurity. We are learning cybersecurity, and we are learning inside cybersecurity IAM, identity access management. Yes or no? Got my point? What is identity? What is access? What is the management? Then we will go forward. Hi, Alam, your qualification? Can I know about yourself, Alam?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Hi. Can I know about you?
Okay, sir.
I
I'm
could not
Jamshid
able.
Alam from Gopalan, Bihar, and final year student from from
Okay,
University, Hyderabad.
okay, fine. I could not able to clearly audible your voice. Okay, that's fine. You just listen the class, then we'll discuss. Hmm. So, in part of cybersecurity, we are working on IAM, Identity Access Management. And the major important concepts with IAM is single sign-on, SSO. SSO. What is SSO means? Single sign-on. Single sign-on. See, what is the meaning of single sign-on? What is the meaning of multi sign-on? Multi sign-on. So, what is the meaning of single sign-on? What is the using of multi sign-on? I will tell you. This is a multi sign-on. This is a multi sign-on. Multi sign-on. Okay. So, I'm going to be discussing with you about single sign-on and multi sign-on now. These are the two important features which are going to be available, and lot of definitions we are going to be discussing today. One is authentication, and one is authorization. We are going to be discussing a lot of definitions today. One is authentication, one is authorization. See, what is the meaning of authentication? What is the meaning of authorization? I will discuss with you. And before that, what is the meaning of single sign-on? What is the meaning of multi sign-on? We will discuss about it. Okay, what is the multi sign-on? Multi sign-on is, for example, for users are having different usernames and different passwords. Users are having different usernames and different passwords for connecting multiple applications. For example, users are having different usernames and different passwords for connecting multiple applications. For example, I'll be having multiple applications. Okay, I'm having one application one. For application one, if I want to access application one, I'll be having username one, uname one. At the same time, I'll be having one password. Okay, suppose I'm having application two. For my application two, I'll be having separate username two, and I'll be having a password two. I'm having one more application three. Okay, so I'm working in a company. I need to access multiple applications in a company, so I should be having multiple usernames and multiple passwords. So that is actually called multi sign-on. Multi sign-on, nothing but users are having different usernames and different passwords, for connecting multiple applications. That is actually called multi sign-on. Application one having separate username, separate password. Application two having separate username, separate password. Application three also having separate username, separate password. So this is basically in regular life we are using like Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, okay, Zomato, Ola, Uber. We are using a lot of application in our phone or mobile, smartphone, or we are having a lot of applications with the websites. But everybody authenticating with websites with the different usernames and different passwords. Okay, so that is a common thing which is going to be available in internet. Internet, nothing but cyber. In internet, we are having multiple applications sign in, multiple applications sign out with different usernames and different passwords. But this is not going to be the healthy environment in companies. This is not going to be a healthy environment in companies. In traditional way in the companies, for example, one employee got joined in the company and he has to be logged in with 15 applications per day. He has to be logged in for 15 applications one day. Okay, so there this multi sign-on will not work. Users are having, let me tell you about a single sign-on. Users are having single username. Okay, single username and single password. Single username and single password for connecting multiple applications. Multiple applications. So this is the concept of actually single sign-on. This is the concept of single sign-on. For example, application one, application two, application three. User want to connecting with okay, let me go with 6 applications. One user, one employee in company. For example, let me tell you. Okay, so this is the same thing. I just want to have the for multiple applications. No need to enter the username and password again and again. The same username, same password for multiple applications. Need not to enter. Okay, so this I can delete. This I can delete. And this also I can delete. And this also I can delete. No need to take the multiple usernames and multiple passwords to particular user. User is going to be logged in with the first application. Automatically, he can able to access with the application 2 and application 3 and application 3, application 4 and application 5 and application 6. See, can you please try to understand? User trying to communicating with the first username and password with the first application. Okay. User trying to connecting with the first application one time, and automatically he can able to log in with the multiple applications at the same time. User entering username and password to access the first application. That first application giving the access for multiple applications at the same time. Application 2, application 3, application 4, 5, 6, n number of applications he can able to access in the single username and single password. Single username and single password. That is actually called single sign-on. That is actually called single sign-on. So having any doubt on multi sign-on, single sign-on? Uttam ready.
Srinivas, I have a doubt when we
Yes,
are going
please.
to reset the suppose I'm working in a city environment.
Okay.
There are multiple service now is there, some ticketing tools is there. When we are resetting that single sign-on password, where it is going to store and how remaining application is going to call that username and password, how it is going to use that same username password, how it is
Good
going to
question.
connect.
Good question. Good question. So, for example, IAM is having some data stores in Active Directory. Okay. So the complete
Okay.
IAM architecture is different. IAM architecture, there are multiple tools which are going to be maintaining with IAM. IAM tools are there. IAM tools are there. What this IAM tools are doing, this tool is doing end-to-end operation. This tool is doing end-to-end operation to do the single sign. For example, you will be having the PingFederate. You'll be having the PingFederate, and you'll be having the Okta, and we will be having the CyberArk. Okay, so we will be having the 40, 40. So we will be having the SailPoint, and we will be having the IBM SSO, and we will be having the Microsoft SSO. See, everywhere you go, any tool you take, any tool you take, every tool which is going to, for example, I am going to be taking Okta. In Okta, or PingFederate, okay, so whenever you are installing this particular tool, which is going to be giving some concept called Active Directory. Active Directory. Active Directory is something like a database. Active Directory is something like a database. So inside the Active Directory, something like a data stores. Data stores. Data stores nothing but tables in the database. Data stores nothing but tables in the database. So inside the database, there are multiple users. And each and every user which is going to be having some password credential validations, PVC, so PCVs. Got my point?
Yes,
Okay,
Srinivas.
a structure was already predefined. A structure was already
Okay.
predefined to manage the usernames and passwords. For example, if you are changing the password, if you are changing the username, automatically the data got stored in the data stores, and the data is going to be storing with the SAML files. So there is a files called SAML files. SAML files. These SAML files are basically transformers between the service provider to service provider. For example, you're saying one service provider something like Salesforce, okay, and you are telling one thing like what you are talking about the service now.
Service now, Jira.
You're talking, yeah, you're talking like a Zira.
Mm.
What is the
Mm.
meaning of Zira? I don't know. The spelling of the Zira. Yeah. So service provider, service now, Salesforce, service now, Zira. Suppose for example you want to access Microsoft Office, okay, Microsoft Office, and if you want to access some other HR application, and if you want to access some different kind of applications, n number of applications, right?
Yes.
All these applications are basically called service providers. Service providers, SPs. Service providers, something like SPs. SP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, our concept is basically our concept. IAM is going to be providing like IADP, identity provider. IDP nothing but identity provider. Identity providers. So all these are basically identity providers. So who are the IDPs? Who are the IDPs? Identity providers. Who are the identity providers? Our Okta is identity provider.
Okta,
Our
CyberArk.
ping is identity provider, ping identity, and our CyberArk is identity provider. Okay, so our 4G is identity provider. Okay, all these are basically different kind of identity providers which are going to be available in the market to manage the single sign-ons, to manage the identity access management. Okay, so what this IDP can do, I will draw the picture of IDP. Then don't worry about it. Okay, I will draw the picture. I will draw the architecture of IDP, how IDP will work, and how this SP will work, and how IDP and SP is going to be connecting with something like a SAML files. SAML files are something like attribute storages. A file which is
Okay.
going to be storing some usernames, passwords, attributes, lot of attributes, first name, last name, email ID, phone number, whatever it is, you are going to be giving the data. Okay, that data got stored and which is going to be saved in the file called SAML file. That SAML file is the mediator or transformer from one SP to another SP. Okay, don't worry, I'll just go slowly. I just want to draw the picture for that. I'll draw the picture for multi sign-on, single sign-on. At the same time, I draw the picture for IDP SP connection, each and everything one by one. Okay. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so there are multiple kind of identity providers like Okta, Ping Identity, CyberArk, ForgeRock, Microsoft SSO, all these things. And coming to the one important definition like authentication and authorization. What is authentication and what is authorization? Authentication, something like who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Something like identify the person. Identify the person. Identify the person by the identity. That is called actually authentication. Authorization, what he can able to do. What he can able to do. That is something like authorization. What he can able to do. Something like authorization. Suppose he has to be login. He has to be sign up. And he has to be connecting with some application. That is something like authorization. We are giving authorized person giving access multiple applications. That is called authorization. First, authentication is very important. Then second thing is authorization is very important. What he has to do, what he can able to do, or what he has to do. No, what he has to do. What he has to do is something like authorization. What my point? Very simple definition. Authentication is something
Yes.
like who are you, identify the person. Authorization is something like what he has to do. We are giving a different kind of permissions to him by authorized person. To authorized person, we are giving different kind of manipulations, all these things.
A level of
Okay.
permissions, you mean to say?
Yes, level of permissions. Level of permissions. For example, for
Oh,
freshers, how many applications we need to give access? For experienced guy, how many applications we need to give access? For example, one testing person got joined in a company. How many applications he has to be accessed? One manager
okay.
got joined in the company. Manager level applications we have to give access to him. He is the authorized person. He is the authorized person for kind of applications. For example, one fresher got joined in the company. For example, I take a TCS. I take TCS. In TCS, one fresher got joined in the company. Okay, fresher level, he has to be access only HR application and a dedicated team. Whatever the dedicated team which is going to be allowed for him. For example, he joined as a web developer. He joined as a web developer. So web development team, according to the him, so which application he was allocated by web development team application, we need to give access. For example, our team lead also team application also we need to give access. Yes or no? Only 3 applications we are going to be giving access to him. For example, experienced guy going to be joining the company. Experience like 5 years guy. He is joining into the company. He was the new guy into the company. And what kind of applications he need to be accessed? So who is the HR allocating by him? So that HR application he has to be accessed, and he has to be accessed. Suppose he's a team lead, for example. He's the team lead. For team lead, how many members we need to give access? Suppose a team also he has to be accessed. At the same time, design team also he has to be accessed. At the same time, development team also he has to be accessed. At the same time, testing team also he has to be accessed. At the same time, admin team also he has to be accessed. At the same time, manager level application also he has to be accessed. Yes, sir. No?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody is different in the company. So for example, X person having something like a 5 lakh package, Y person having 6 lakhs package, Z person having 25 lakhs package. Based on the work, based on the role, based on the job allocation, he has to be work with the multiple kind of things in the company. And our work is what actually by the IAM, what we are doing is we are managing the authorizations. We are managing the authorizations and we are actually stopping the permissions, and we are giving the permissions. Which kind of permissions we have to give to them, and which kind of permissions we don't have to give to him. That is what we need to manage in the companies. And this complete work is managed by the IAM, and that is the why reason nowadays all MNCs are recruiting IAM consultants. Very huge demand in the market. IAM consultants, everybody is IAM consultant. What our work is very simple work. We are actually checking, or we are actually managing the identities, and we are managing the service providers, and we are managing the authentications and authorizations, and we are working on completely single sign-ons. That is our work in the company. There is no coding part. No need to write coding anywhere. No need to write coding anywhere. We are just going to be taking the users data, and we are just going to be taking the SP's data, and which user is going to be communicating with the which service provider by the identity provider. That identity, we are working on identity provider, we are working on that particular tool, Okta, PingFederate, or 4G or CyberArk. Then we are trying to give in the permissions. That is our work in the company. Got my point, I think so.
Srini, I have a question.
Please.
Is like Okta is a GUI tool or how it is like? Are we going
Yes,
to
yes.
work on?
Okta is the That's for
Oh,
sure. Okta is a GUI tool. You have to install this one. For practice purpose, we are going to be taking the trial version. It's a free trial version for 1 month, I think so. But in company, they have licensed ones, and you have to work there. So same things work in the free trial and the licensed one also. When you join in the company people will give you the licensed version of Okta, and the same concepts which are going to be available in the free trial also. Why free trial? Free trial for learning purpose. For example, I am changing my role in my company from PingFederate to Okta. I need to understand how this Okta is working. So I have to do practice with the multiple kind of concepts, right? Then we are going with the free trial. We don't take license for the Okta here now. It is very costly. Companies
okay.
are managing the licensed versions of Okta. You can go with the licensed versions of Okta in the companies. Got my point?
That particular software need to install on Linux machines.
Yeah,
Okta also.
we need to go with the Windows servers. We need to go with the servers, Windows servers. Better you can go with the server. Let me try to install in my Mac or free trial of Okta. If you want, you can try to install in your machine also. That is also there. And you can go with the first name, and you can go with the last name, working email, phone number, all these things you can give. And you can do practice with this. Okay, let me try to give this first name. Okay, better you need to go with the server. I don't install in my Mac to manage all these things. This is not a really good thing. Why? Because of I need to create Active Directory. I need to create a service provider, different kind of service provider. One service provider we will do practice. Like I will do practice with the Salesforce. Okay, I'm going
Okay.
to be taking with you one Salesforce application as a service provider, and we are going to be preparing some Active Directories. Then we try to create some users, and we are going to be learning all the concepts one by one.
Okay.
Okay, so coming classes, when I start the sessions, I will tell you how to install the virtual machine and how to install Okta there in the virtual machine. I will show everything. I don't install now. This is a demonstration. I do not show anything to the Okta. But this is very crucial one, important one. And Okta is going to be having, when you see the website, a lot of products Okta can do. See, can you see this? What are the different kind of products Okta is going to be maintaining with? The single sign-on, very important. And what is the multi-factor authentication? I will tell you what is the multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication, you may know that. You may know that authentication may be with a different kind of scenarios. What is the multi-factor authentication? What is the multi-factor authentication? Multi-factor authentication is basically, see, some kind of application which is going to be having different kind of authorization system, authentication system. For example, I am taking one smartphone. This smartphone which is going to be having something like pattern to open the phone, to open the lock of the phone. Pattern is there, and face recognition. Yes, sir. And some mobiles are going to be having fingerprint. Okay, so when you put the finger, automatically phone is unlocked. So when you try to unlocking your mobile, when you try to unlock your mobile, we are going to be having multiple kind of scenario. One scenario is the pattern scenario. One scenario is the face recognition scenario. Recognition. One scenario is the face recognition. One scenario is the fingerprint. And some other advanced mobiles which is going to be having the voice recognition also. Sir, okay, so voice, some audio you have to record when you launch your mobile, when you register with the voice, then the same word you have to tell, then only it will open. In movies also, some laptops are opening with the voice, something like Shivaji movie. Different kind of authentication systems are available. That concept is going to be available with Okta. We can do work with multi-factor authentication. This concept is MFA. MEFA, nothing but multi-factor authentication. See how to provide authentication with multi-factors, with the pattern, with the face recognition, with the fingerprint, with username and password. Username and password also there. Some applications, that is common thing, right? Username and password common thing. Username password is common. Username and password is common thing. And something is going to be getting the OTPs. Something is going to be having the captcha. Just see, username password is there, OTP is there, and captcha is there, and patterns are there, face recognitions are there, fingerprints are there, and voice recognition is also there. See, all these different kind of terminologies called multi-factors. Multi-factors, multi-factor authentication also we can do with our identity access manager, so our identity providers like PingFederate or Okta, 40 or CyberArk. Okay, and Okta is going to be having highly demanding in the market. Very huge requirements are there for the Okta with experienced guys like 2 plus, 3 plus, 4 plus, 5 plus, 6 plus years of experience also you can able to manage. It's not a big deal with that. It's not a big deal with that. Okay, so let me show how this is going to be work with yeah. So I'm trying to taking one simple diagram. Simple two diagrams I'm going to be taking. One is a single multi-fact, one is a multi sign-on, one is a single sign-on. One is a multi sign-on, one is a single sign-on. How this multi sign-on is working, how this single sign-on is working. Let me take a simple diagram. How multi sign-on is working, how single sign-on is working. Theoretically we done, but diagrammatically, my classes are going to be having theoretically, diagrammatically, practically. Okay, so multi sign-on. This is multi sign-on, and coming to this is a single sign-on. My complete classes are going with theoretically, practically, and diagrammatically. Every concept I'm going to be explaining theoretically first, then so this is wrong. This is a multi sign-on. This is a single sign-on. Okay, so how this multi sign-on is going to be working? For example, user is there, and multiple applications, multiple credentials. Okay, so username and password, and for this application one, he is a user. He is a user. He is going to be connecting with multiple usernames and passwords, UID and password, UID and PWD, UID and PWD, username and password. And he is going to be working with the username and password with first of all application one. Okay, he has to be work with multiple applications now. Then what he is going to be do? What he is going to be do? Let me copy this. So different username and different password for application 2. Different username and different password for separate application. And different username and different password for different application. Suppose. Sorry. Different username, different password for different applications. Let me draw the picture very clear. So he has to be work on another application 2 and application 3, application 2 and application 4. Okay. This application nothing but service provider. This application nothing but service provider. So user having separate username, separate password for application 1 access, and user is going to be having separate username, separate password for the separate application. And again, user is going to be having separate user ID password for the another application. And user is going to be having and again separate user ID, separate password. This is actually called multi sign-on. This is actually called multi sign-on. But now coming to the single sign-on, how single sign-on is going to be work. So he is the user and he is going to be working with the identity provider IDP. This is the IDP. This is the IDP, identity provider, and he has to be logged with multiple applications at the same time. He has to be logged in with the multiple applications at the same time. Let me copy all this. Okay, can you see this? Okay, so he is the user. He is the user. He is actually communicating with IDP, and IDP is sending the username and password to the first application. And IDP can able to connect with the same different kind of application with the same username and same password. Another application also giving access, another application also giving access, and another application also giving access. What IDP can do, IDP when first application is going to be getting sign on, it is going to be generating one SAML file. It is going to be generating one SAML file. This SAML file was registered with the service provider, and that service provider copying the SAML file and sending to the another application. When another application getting opening in the browser, automatically the same SAML file which is transferring to the second application, and the same SAML file which is transferring to the third application, and same SAML file which is transferred to the third application too. What SAML file contains with SAML file contains with your authorities like usernames and passwords. Got my point? This is the architecture of multi sign-on and single sign-on. This is the architecture of single sign-on and multi sign-on. No need to give username password again and again for the multiple applications. When first application is communicating or connecting, when SAML file was posting from IDP to application 1. When SAML file posted from one application to another application, that SAML file is going to be transferring to the multiple applications at the same time. This to this, this to this, this to this. So this is the working process of single sign-on. Working process of single sign-on. Okay, so that's very clear. Let me save the diagram. Okay, so I will save the diagram on top of desktop. Let me go to the desktop now. Sorry. Desktop, and I'll create a new folder, something like Okta demo. And inside Okta demo, I was stored this architecture. Now I will take a new architecture. That architecture is something like what IDP can do. This is IDP, right? This is IDP, identity provider, and somewhere you will be having the user, and somewhere you will be having the data store. Somewhere you will be having the data store, and somewhere you will be having your applications. For example, your applications are, you are having multiple applications. Okay, so SP1, SP2, SP3. So what is going to be happen? First of all, user trying to connecting with the first application, but this session was not starting with immediately. Whenever user trying to communicating with the first service provider, session is not going to be start. What it is going to be happen with this service provider taking permissions from identity provider. Then identity provider giving some access to the user. This is the third step. This is the second step. Okay, this is the first step, this is the second step, and this is the third step. Third step. And what is the fourth step immediately? Fourth step is very simple. Fourth step is which is the username and password providing from the IDP that was stored in the Active Directory. That was stored in the Active Directory, your data store. This is your data store, IDP store. This is IDP store. IDP store. IDP store, your password, credentials, usernames, everything got stored in this. And this is the IDP. And this is the SP. Okay. So when connection was established, with user, then user can able to communicate with the SP. This is successfully sign on. This is successfully sign on. When successful sign on done, automatically IDP posted some SAML file to the SP. IDP posted some SAML file to the SP. So what this SAML file is? SAML file is a content. SAML file is a data or attribute set. That attribute set automatically transferring whenever you want to log in with the second application. Automatically, the same credentials are going to be sending. Same credentials are going to be sending by sending a SAML file. A SAML is a transformer which is going to be transforming the credential data application to application, service provider to service provider. Okay, so got my point. Is there any question on this? Okay, so later I will detail explanation all these things. Don't worry about it. Just try to understand how this IDP, all these things are getting works. And this is the user. Is the user. And finally, user can able to work with the multiple service providers by the taking permissions of IDP. IDP is only the manager. IDP is only the director who is directing all the login system. Okay, so that is the major benefit of IDP. Multiple IDPs are there. Now we have Okta, we have PingFederate, we have ForgeRock, CyberArk, all these are IDPs only. So we have Okta, we have PingFederate, Ping Identity, and we have CyberArk, and we have ForgeRock. All these are basically multiple kind of so MS SSO, Microsoft SSO, and one is the SailPoint. All these are different companies who is managing IDPs, identity providers. And SP is nothing but your Salesforce, your Office 365. Suppose first SP is something like Salesforce. This is Salesforce. We are connecting with the Salesforce, and we are connecting with Office 365. Office 365. Sorry, Office 365. Or we are connecting with GCP, Google Cloud Provider, GCP. Okay, so it's not a concept of application, it's not a concept of SP. SP can be anything. But user has to be access the data from the Salesforce, user has to be access the data from the Office 365, user has to be access the data from GCP or Azure or AWS or ServiceNow, whatever it may be. The major important thing is SSO IDPs and IDP stores. IDP stores are managing with ADs, Active Directories. AD nothing but Active Directories. And this Active Directory having something like AD nothing but Active Directory. AD is Active Directory. First of all, we should creating with Active Directory. Active Directory having different kind of stores. That is something like data stores, and data stores are having a different kind of password credential validators. This is going to be having PCVs, password credential validators, multiple things. Okay, let me save the diagram. This is architecture 2. Okay, so let me launch the thing Okta now and play with Okta. Okta, an American identity access management system based on San Francisco. It provides the cloud software that helps companies manage secure user authentication into application. For developers building identity controls into the applications, website, web services, and devices. Sir, we have OAuth concept. OAuth concept is basically services. So we give authentication authorization using by the web services also. A concept called OAuth. Later I will discuss about OAuth also. OAuth, OpenID, different kind of things. And okay, so now you can see the diagram. So on-premise identity, different kind of service providers which are going to be there, like Workday, Office 365, SAP, Microsoft.NET, Java, Oracle. And one more advantage with Okta is Okta supports for mobile applications. Okta supports for mobile applications. Okay, all devices, all devices, employees, customers, partners, contractors, with all devices like desktops, laptops, tablets, smartphones. See, some employees are, okay, manager level employees are only using smart devices like tabs, iPads, all those. They don't use laptops and desktops. They also need to be worked on. So Okta have a greater advantage, which is going to be supporting for mobile, which is going to be support for mobile application requirement. Okay, so now you can see this internet and your network. And Okta, what Okta is going to be doing, Okta working with the firewall, Okta working with the firewall, and which is going to be having the users and active directories. Can you see this? Very, very important. Users are there and active directories are there, and Okta ADs, Okta agents, Okta web application, Okta IWA. This is something like OAuth connections. But everything, remote users, something like remote users also work with Okta. And this firewall is going to be giving the permission to the multiple kind of applications at the same time. Multiple applications in the same. This is single sign-on. Okay, so this demonstration is not getting stopped actually. I just want to continue the one more demonstration for you. Just try to observe the PPT now. Okay, so there are multiple steps. There is one remote user is there. Remote user coming to the cloud, Nescope security cloud. Nescope matches the user ID policy, then it will go to the internet and it will go with the Nescape suspense application session, and which is going to be request MFA verification by the Okta. Then Okta users validates TOTP SMS push, then immediately user validated. When user validated, so what remote user can do, remote user Nescope releases application session. When session was started, automatically the thing is going to be worked. The data can be transferred. And high assurance, security questions, password, SMS, software OTP, Okta verify push, and FIDO, web authn, factors, biometrics, any SAML, OIDC, out providers, all these things coming like MFA, multi-factor authentication, which is supported by the Okta, and single sign-on is there. And the cloud applications, there are multiple cloud applications you can able to access with reviews, fuzzy ID, SOD, alerts, reports, with a multiple kind of Active Directory, text files, ERP system, databases, Linux, Unix, LDAP servers, LDAP databases, legacy databases, all these things which are going to be working with the access auditor, security components. And security features, there are multiple kind of security features. Threat insight, and threat insight is working with Okta Identity Cloud, and password authentication is there. Can you see the password authentication with different kind of works, different kind of terminologies, and biometric authentication is available. Okay, so biometric authentication, you will be working with the Touch ID, Face ID, Windows Hello, and FIDO 2.0 delivering standards based on the wire technologies. Additionally, Okta can integrate the third-party technologies like SAML and the OIDC integrations. Yes, very, very nice. Okta Verify, MFA factors, and context-based authentication. Context nothing but the text-based authentication. And high risk, medium risk, low risk. So whenever you are having high risk, you can go with the web auth OAuth 2.0. Medium risk, you can go for password plus verify push. Low risk, just password. Only password is low risk. So different kind of risk factors we have to follow, and the risk-based authentication based on the application security levels. We need to provide authentication. That also verified with Okta, and devices SDK, devices API are also there, and health insight. Health is very good. Okta health is very good. When you are working with Okta, your application performance also not going to be getting lag, and very fast. Within fraction of seconds, you can able to log in with your applications with Okta. So that's all for today demo, and we are going to be starting the sessions very soon, and you'll be getting the update when session is going to be start. And this complete session is going to be going for 30 hours, and there is no coding part. Session is only for 30 hours.